Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, December 18th. Ian Cameron and Matt Robinson, who you will soon see on your... There he is. Speak of the devil. Wednesday, NHL slate, 5 games on tap here for this Wednesday night. We'll get to those in just a moment. But first, we'll look back on a very busy Tuesday night in NHL action. Profitable night overall. We'll take it. And part of that profit was the over by Fecta in Montreal with the Sabres and the Canadians. We had the first period and full game over, and nice to see that Terry Pegula team meeting, the owner of the Sabres going to meet with the team. Really paid off, really made a difference. Only gave up the first goal in the first 20 seconds of the game, and you kind of knew right then and there, here we go again for these poor Buffalo Sabres. And next thing you know, 2-0 after the first, brutal second, and they end up on the losing end of a 6-1 beat down at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. The 11th straight loss now for this Buffalo Sabres team. It's been an absolutely dreadful run, and we will see here how this continues to play out. But a nice 6-1 win here for the Montreal Canadiens as they get the job done over the Buffalo Sabres. And look, I don't know where else to go with Buffalo. They're not defending hard enough. I thought, once the bad things happened with the first goal in the first minute, it just basically self-destructed from that point on. And you can't get outshot 11 that tells you all you need to know, that certainly the answer was not the owner speaking to the team. When you've lost 10 in a row like that and you're outshot 11-3 in the first period like that is just absolutely terrible. So a 6-1 victory for the Montreal Canadiens last night against the hapless Buffalo Sabres. The Pittsburgh Penguins, nice solid job by them as they beat the red-hot LA Kings 3-2 in overtime last night. They get a beautiful deflection goal in overtime, by the way, by Rickard Rakell. Perfect deflection past Darcy Kemper. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, it was a pretty even game. You got to give Pittsburgh credit. I thought it was a solid effort from them. They give up the first goal 33 seconds into Adrian Kempe. But every time LA scored, they answered and tied it, and then they get the overtime winner with Rakell in that 3-2 victory for the Pittsburgh Penguins there in that game. We also saw last night the Tampa Bay Lightning 5-3 over Columbus. This one actually turned out okay from a betting standpoint for me because I was on Columbus a little bit on the money line, but more so on the team total. And we also had we did have the over by Fecta, but we got the second leg of it, at least with the full game over in that game. So 5-3 for Tampa Bay. They get the win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were down 4-0 at one point. Give Columbus credit for battling in the third period to try to get back into that game, but really difficult when you're going to give a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning a 4-0 lead, and you're going to have a hard time, obviously, coming back. So 5-3 Tampa Bay with the win there. Pretty solid. I give Tampa credit for being really strong out of the gate as well, considering they were coming back off the road trip. So real nice job by John Cooper's Tampa Bay Lightning last night. Carolina, 4-0 shutout over the New York Islanders, which means the Islanders are going to be in the system play in their next game. They get a 4-0 win over the New York Islanders, and not really much to say. It's not that big of a shock, especially with Carolina losing the last time they played the Islanders. You could kind of tell they wanted to make amends for that, and they sure did, getting a nice 4-0 win there. The New York Rangers, and I saw someone post something about this. They've now lost to two teams that were at the time when they played them the worst team in the NHL. Chicago recently at home, losing to the Rangers losing to them at Madison Square Garden, and then last night being shut out by the Nashville Predators 2-0 in Music City. Feeble effort, feeble stuff from the Rangers. Just terrible, really. I mean, you see, especially the later that game went on, it seemed like things got worse, not better for the New York Rangers. It ended up being Nashville getting on the board with the Jonathan Marchessault goal, and then they added the insurance marker, which was all they needed to get the 2-0 victory over the New York Rangers last night. And when you're getting shut out by the Nashville Predators, who have had their own woes and had their own issues and turbulence the last 2 weeks, then definitely that things are really in a bad way for the New York Rangers. And I'm just wondering how long they can go on with this status quo. No trades, no changes. I don't expect them to fire Laviolette. I think people are thinking that could happen, but you just hired him before last year, and you've been cycling through enough coaches already. I think it's a roster shakeup that has to happen for the New York Rangers, but when it will happen, we'll see. If it will happen, we'll see. But like I said, the veterans need to be just a whole lot better. It's really that simple. I mean, I'm seeing Will Cooley show some care. I'm seeing Brett Berard and some of these young kids that are in the lineup show that they care, show that they, definitely want to, make a difference. But I'm not seeing enough of that on a nightly basis from your Kreiders and your Zibanejad and the veteran core of this team that I think is letting them down more than not. So, unfortunate. It's just been a terrible run for the New York Rangers, and it got even worse last night. New Jersey, nice job by them. They get a 4-1 win against St. Louis. The Blues starting to cool off a little bit now. The last few games, it's now a 3-game losing streak for them under Jim Montgomery. But the Devils, that was a solid road effort, getting a 4-1 win over St. Louis. What a comeback by Alex's Chicago Blackhawks last night. Man, great job by them. They were down 2-0 going into the third. Maybe took advantage of the Capitals team on a back-to-back on the road, maybe, getting a little tired, a little fatigued late in the game, but give them all the credit, battling back, tying it up, and then Ryan Donato, elephant hands, with the game winner inside 2 minutes left for the 3-2 win for the Chicago Blackhawks in that game. It was on the over by Fekta, and unfortunately, I used the full game over for best bet, so best bet slump continues. It's going to happen. You're going to have it in the long season. But we did get the first period over. And I mentioned I thought Chicago could be live in this spot, and we did grab a piece of them plus money at a big plus price as a home underdog, and the team total over 2.5 for the Blackhawks. So very excited about seeing Chicago come back and win that game. And don't look now, 2 losses in a row for the Washington Capitals. And, Washington's been a great story. I don't think they're going away. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be, still a team that's going to be reckoned with and probably a playoff team, but there'll be some leveling off at some point. You're not going to keep winning at this clip that they are right now. And Chicago, nice win for them to come back there. Speaking of comebacks, Boston, 4-3 win in overtime against Calgary. This is another one where I was on both overs, first and full game, and this split it again. First period, scoreless in the first period, but the full game over does cash as we get a lot of goals in the latter 40 minutes. Boston down 3-1 at one point, but they get 3 unanswered goals. Pasternak wins it in overtime. Nice comeback for Boston, trying to build a little momentum here on this road trip with a 4-3 win over the Flames. I think one of the best performances of the entire night last night had to have been the Ottawa Senators. You talk about a letter-perfect road game. You talk about a team that is feeling it right now. This is a team you don't want to step in front of at the moment. What a performance, 3-0 shutout win over the Seattle Kraken. Linus Ullmark is completely dialed in right now. He's now 7-0-1 in his last 8 starts, 1.5 goals against average. He gets the shutout there. We cash a bargain bin special of the night with Parlay Pinto, Shane Pinto, plus 425. Great to see that. And I know a couple people ended up sending me a message saying they got sprinkled on him to score the first goal. Which was even better. So great to cash the bargain bin special of the night with plus 425 with Shane Pinto. 3-0 win for the Ottawa Senators in that game. A great performance by them. And then the Winnipeg Jets on the mom's trip. Was looking a little dicey with all the moms in attendance when San Jose took an early 3-2 lead in the third period after goals by Celebrini to tie it and then Zetterlund. But the Jets end up rallying back. Kyle Connor had a terrific night. 2 goals, including the game-tying goal in the third period. And then Adam Lowry, the captain, gives the Jets a 4-3 victory over the San Jose Sharks with the game-winning goal late in the third. I did grab the over. One thing to point out now with San Jose, they've gone 5-0 to the over their last 5 games and 7-0-1 to the over in their last 8 home games. So I think it's a spot where the San Jose Sharks, it's almost like they're trying to put on a bit of a show. They're trying to, be a little more, because they've got all this young talent. They want to score more goals in front of the home crowd, but it's coming at the expense of their defense. And they have not been defending all that great here in their recent home games. And you put it all together, and 7-0-1 to the over in their last 8 games last 8 home games, I should say, coming into tonight. Matt, what did you think of last night? Obviously, a ton of games. How did it go for you? And congratulations, by the way, to you as well on your bargain bin special of the night. Stefan Nason, death taxes. And when Matt Robinson's on the show and Stefan Nason's playing that night, he's going to score and probably cash a bargain bin if Matt so chooses to use him as a bargain bin special. So, Matt, again, Stefan Nason gets the job done last night for the bargain bin that you had.
Yeah, obviously great to see his first point in December come in when he is the bargain bin. So nice to see. I think I've had a couple misses here and there. So I think we were talking before the show. I think I I want to say it's like 80 or 90% when it's a Tuesday and I take him. So I think, where we get lost is sometimes I'll take him on a Thursday or on the weekend or whatever. I think it's Tuesday night. I'm on the show. Devils play. Stefan Nason goal prop coming in. So that was awesome to see. Um, you know, Another nice piece yesterday, the Tampa Bay Columbus game. I missed the best bet. I took the first period over, but the other two bets I took in the game were Tampa team total over full or over 3.5, and puck line, which both were able to cash. So sometimes you can't hit the best bet, but still a 2 out of 3 game is always nice to see. As far as the rest of the card, I won't get too into detail. I was on the Sabres, Canadians first period and full game over, which were a couple nice hits. I did have an Alex Turcotte goal prop, which did hit again. He's on a bit of a heater. He's been somebody to look at lately for LA. In that Canadians game, it barely got over, but I did have the Canadians over Canadians Hurricanes over 3.5, which just hit by 1 goal. So nice to see them get the 4-0 dub. It happened late in the second period, so good on that. I did have a couple misses. I think I was on the Rangers Predators same game parlay, first period, full game over. Obviously, that was a low and slow game. Um, Dumpster fire continues in New York. The Preds do get a 2-0 win, but it doesn't show me a whole lot. It's not like I'm going to back them in their next game just because of this. I don't know who they have on the schedule, but I'm sure they're happy to get a nice home win. It seemed to be rocking in that building. So despite New York's struggles, it's a nice win for the Preds. Big hit was the Blackhawks Caps. I was on the Blackhawks. I know we discussed that on the show. I did have the full game over at 5.5 in that one, which was a miss, unfortunately. But the Blackhawks late comeback was nice to see. It was nice to get that one in. Bruins Flames. I was very back and forth on the sides on the show. I didn't take either side. I could kind of make a case for both, but didn't really want to back either. I did have the full game over though in that game, which hit thanks to the overtime and the Bruins comeback. Wasn't looking as good when it was 3-1 going into the third, but they were able to score in the third period, make it 3-2, and then I felt like maybe there'd be an empty net. I was actually at somebody's house last night for a Christmas party that's a big Bruins fan, so I actually watched the third and overtime in that game, so that was good to see. Didn't really catch a lot of action in the last 2 games. I didn't have any action on the Sens Kraken game besides Shane Pinto. Shout out to Ian, also getting the bargain bin. I know there was just 2 of us on the show. It's always nice to get a little bargain bin sweep, though. That's always good to see. We'll take that any day. When it comes to bargain bin and best bet, typically a best bet is somewhere between minus 150 to plus 120. Obviously, the bargain bin is much higher odds. So if we had to pick one, I would take the bargain bin any night of the week. So that was good to see him score to cash that for you. And then in the last game, I took a small shot on the Sharks, which was actually looking okay there for a minute. They took the lead there about 5 minutes into the third period. Obviously, Winnipeg was able to come back and win in regulation, which would have been a nice bet to take if you could live bet Winnipeg when they were down 3-2. I'm sure you got pretty good odds for them to win in regulation. But the other bet I had on that game was the over, which soared over pretty easily. So kind of a split game. But yeah, definitely a profitable night. Nothing insane. It was pretty even as far as wins and losses. But what kind of got us over the hump was a couple nice prop bets. So that was good to see.
Yeah, no doubt. Certainly the bargain bin special was a nice way to end the night. Ottawa too. Like I really liked. I should have used. I almost used Ottawa as my best bet. That was the side I liked the most in the entire card last night. And oh well. Nevertheless, it was still good to have that on the card anyway. And like I said, Ottawa are a bet on team right now. I'm telling you, they look dialed in. They're getting great goaltending. They're getting contributions from various sources every night, and it's probably as well as I've seen them defend all season as what they have the last few games. And you could see the seeds of this run were starting to be planted with that Carolina win on Friday night when they went to Carolina and they shut out the Hurricanes. So really like what I'm seeing from Ottawa. And yeah, you already know it. I'll be on Ottawa tomorrow night against Calgary. Absolutely. All right, let's get into Wednesday night. It's actually not a bad card. You have 5 games on tap. We've got Philadelphia and Detroit. The Red Wings minus 115 home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. Detroit, obviously, slight home favorites. These two teams actually just played 6 days ago in Philly. Philly gets the 4-1 win over the Detroit Red Wings in that game. Detroit's actually won, though, 2 straight here at home versus the Flyers, and they've beaten the Flyers 4 of 5 at home the last 5 meetings. But I look at Detroit, and I know they're off of a win against a pretty good Toronto Maple Leafs team, 4-2 in that game. I thought Husso was surprisingly good because he's kind of had a disappointing season for the Detroit Red Wings, and Toronto just didn't capitalize. They had chances, Toronto just didn't do a good enough job capitalizing on those. We'll see how they fare here tonight in this game. Obviously, when you look at the Flyers, I actually like how they're playing of late, even though it hasn't always shown up in victories. They played Florida. They lose 7-5, but were very competitive. They lose 4-3 in overtime in a game that they were leading 3-1, and they can't hold the lead. And that was Kolosov in net, by the way, one of the goalies, as I've talked about many times on this show. Don't really trust him at the NHL level. 4-2 loss to Utah. That was Erson's return. You know, we forgive him for that. When you've been out a long time, you're not always going to be at your best, you know, the first start back. And then, of course, after that, they beat Columbus 5-3 on the road. They beat this Detroit team at home. They lose 4-1 at Minnesota. I'll tell you what, they had chances. Mishkov ends up basically taking away a goal from his own teammate Konechny in that game. If you watch the replay, but like I said, you know, it was a good spot for Minnesota. Minnesota got clobbered the game before that against Edmonton at home, and so you figured they'd have a better effort. And Philly kind of ran into that on Saturday against the Minnesota Wild. So now you got Philly off a loss. You got Detroit off a win against Toronto. Which looks good on paper, but prior to that, let's not forget 1-6 in their last 7 games for this Detroit Red Wings team. I like Philadelphia here. I know Detroit, you know, is looking to avenge the loss in Philly last week, but I look at the Flyers right now as just an overall better squad at the moment, a little more polish. I think certainly when you look at it, they're scoring a bit more than Detroit is lately. Detroit's been scoring just 1 and 2 in a majority of their recent games. And who knows what we're going to get from Alex Lyon. That, to me, is the biggest concern I have with the Red Wings. He was out for a long time with a lower body injury. He hasn't played since November the 25th, and his starts right before the injury weren't as good as we've seen Alex Lyon play in the past. You know, he had that 5-goal game that where he allowed 5 to Anaheim, 6 to Winnipeg. You know, it's been a little more up and down lately. You know, he did obviously have a couple of good games against a, you know, moribund offensive team like the New York Islanders. But, you know, to me, I just look at these two teams and I see that Philadelphia, to me, has shown more 60-minute performances at both ends of the ice. I certainly like their offense a bit more than Detroit. Defensively, you know, they've had some rough times, but now with Erson back in the fold, he's now gotten a few starts under his belt. You know, he's probably going to get more comfortable. 6-4-1, 2.87 goals against, 891 save percentage. We'll see how he fares here. Again, he hasn't been phenomenal since he's been back. He's given up 10 goals in his first 3 starts, but you know, Philly's been able to score some goals and give him some run support, so to speak, which has helped. And he'll get better, and he's still better than Kolosov and Fedotov as well, in my opinion. So, yeah, it won't be best bet on the show, but I did grab Philadelphia here, minus 105. Matt, what do you think here? Flyers, Red Wings.
This is a game I kind of lean to the over. I like it more at 5.5 though. I see it on some books at 5.5, but it's like -135. What I It is a TNT game. I will be tuning in for it. Not the best TNT matchup I've ever seen, but I love to watch that broadcast on Wednesdays. So
Yeah.
I will be tuning in for the first period of this one. It is the first game, so I'm gonna give it a couple minutes and then try and live bet this. Hopefully, we don't get a goal in the first few. Um, could even make a case for the first period over if it gets to some good prices. But if I could get 5.5 around even money, I think that's where I'll look in this one. I do lean Philly, given Lions, question marks right now. Um, Detroit is at home. They'll want to play well on TNT as well. So, it's just one of those toss ups for me. And it's two teams I don't follow too closely, being in the Eastern Conference. So I'm going to stay off the sides on this one. But I could obviously make a case for either one. So I think I'll just be on that total over 5.5 that I'm going to try and get live.
You know what's funny? By the way, one of the Philadelphia's played okay on the road lately, even before the Minnesota loss. Like, they should have beat Boston. They were up 3-1 on the road against the Bruins. They beat Columbus on the road. They handed Jim Montgomery and the Blues a loss when Philly went on the road and won that. So they've been pretty decent on the road lately, this Philadelphia team. And like I said, I know Detroit's in revenge mode for last week, but I don't like what I see. I just don't from Detroit. And who knows what we're going to get from Lyon with all this time off. And I don't like backing teams with goalies that haven't played in a while in their first start back from injury. So, like I said, that's got me on Philadelphia. I just like their form at this price, especially. We're talking just a slight road underdog here. I think they're worth a look. All right, Toronto and Dallas next up. This, probably should be a TNT game, but it's not. Kind of bizarre. Dallas -135 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. I mean, the first thing that stands out to me when you look at this game is Toronto's dominance over Dallas. It's 6 straight meetings that the Leafs have won, 5 straight here at the AAC, believe it or not, that Toronto has come into Dallas and beaten the Stars. So this is a long track record of just Toronto owning this Dallas Stars team. The circumstances, though, are a little bit different here tonight. You've got the Leafs are obviously going to tread moving forward without Anthony Stolarz in net, and we'll have obviously Joe Woll and Dennis Hildeby holding down the fort in net for the foreseeable future. Joe Woll, of course, will get the start tonight. No surprise there in this one. Toronto with a nice comeback after the shockingly slow start against Buffalo, where they were down 2-0 early, but managed to come back and win 5-3. You could say great comeback, Toronto. Probably some of it a product of Buffalo just having zero, and I mean zero confidence right now at the moment, but nevertheless give them all the credit in the world, Buffalo, or Toronto rather, for coming back in that game still. We'll see how they fare here in this one. I think the important thing to note with the Toronto Maple Leafs is Joe Woll early in the season, if there was an injury to Stolarz, you'd feel a little bit worried maybe about putting him in there. But one thing we know about Joe Woll lately for the Toronto Maple Leafs is he's played a lot better. There's no question. After a slow start, remember, he was coming back from injury early in the season, and I think now you are seeing him certainly play at a much higher level of late. So even though Stolarz has been magnificent and Joe Woll's probably been not quite as good, he's been a lot better, Joe Woll, than he was early in the season, and his form's pretty damn good right now. We'll see if that carries over into tonight. Dallas back-to-back home wins against St. Louis and Washington, getting back to that good, solid defensive type of play the last 2 games as well, holding St. Louis to just 16 shots and just 1 goal allowed to the Washington Capitals in the Monday night win, 3-1. We'll see if that carries over here into this game. I know there's some situationals going on with Dallas that Matt pointed out to me yesterday. I'll let him talk about that a little bit more in his breakdown. This is an interesting game to me because I look at this and I see that when it comes to the Dallas Stars, especially on home ice, look what they've done lately against the good teams on home ice. Colorado victory, Winnipeg victory, Washington victory. They've had some good performances here on home ice. And I know Toronto, I don't know if I trust Dallas to win the game here tonight in this one, but I just feel like they're not in the worst spot to maybe put an end to that Leaf win streak that they have over the Dallas Stars tonight. We'll see if they're able to do that. This is more of a game where I'm going to watch and observe. I don't have a strong feel for it. I kind of lean Stars a little bit and maybe a team total over on Dallas, maybe even at 5.5, a full game over, believe it or not, because I kind of find with Dallas, you look at the Colorado game, it was a 5-3 game. It went back and forth, kind of went over the total. I think when you get better teams coming into Dallas, you get more of a focus for Dallas. I find, I think they push the envelope a little more offensively. That's quite possible when they play some of these better teams at home. So the ability to get a 5.5 in this with this total instead of 6 and 6.5, which probably at other times it would be, I lean that way. I don't feel strongly about it either way. My lean is Dallas money line team total over split and the over at 5.5. But if I told you I had a strong opinion on the side or total, it would be a lie. I don't. I do love, not just like though, love a bunch of props in this game. This is a phenomenal. We've got so many great prop games here tonight with this Leaf Stars game both ways. Where do I begin? Let's start with Nick Robertson, who is of course in the lineup, who finally scored for Toronto in the last game, and we know he's it's been frustrating. Berube's given him opportunity after opportunity, and he hasn't always seized that opportunity. Well, he did score in the last game that he was in the lineup for the Leafs in that victory over the Buffalo Sabres, and he got an assist. It was a 2-point night for him against the Buffalo Sabres. Now, of course, you're coming into Dallas. You got Big Brother on the other side, Jason Robertson. So what gets you fired up? Playing your brother. And I think Nick Robertson, from a goal prop standpoint, worth a look. You can also look from a Toronto standpoint at Chris Tanev, going back to Dallas, playing there for the first time since his half-season stint there last year when he got dealt from Calgary to Dallas. And a guy that certainly now doesn't score a lot, but, going back to Dallas, the juice is flowing a little bit, even though he's known for blocking shots, defensive play. He is a good first pass. Nobody talks about Tanev's first pass enough. We know he gets all the credit for shot blocking and penalty kill and defense and being physical. He doesn't get the credit he should for being a great first pass defenseman as well. And I just think, with tonight being a return to Dallas, maybe when that puck's on his stick in the offensive zone tonight, maybe more of an emphasis to, onus to maybe fire that puck. You could get at the Ontario-based Betano book. Now, it's nowhere near this good, this price elsewhere, but you can still get 12-1, 14-1 at, DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365 with Tanev to score, but you can get 29-1 at the Ontario book, Betano. That's just a couple bucks. That's all you have to place on that. And, worth a look, just in case maybe Chris Tanev finds the back of the net here tonight in this game. So there's a few that definitely stand out. For Dallas, there's a bunch that stand out. How about the red hot Matt Duchene right now? You can't go wrong with him, what he's done lately. How about Leon Bichel? I mean, at this point, you just got to rock with it. 2 goals in the first 3 games from the blue line for him, and you can still get 12-1 at Caesars for him to find the back of the net. And the one that also stands out to me tonight for Dallas for goal prop tonight is Mason Marchment, for various reasons. We know he's capable. We know he's had a great offensive surge here in Dallas, which actually started in Florida. But the team that kind of said, you know what, doesn't look like you're going to become anything here at the NHL level with us in our organization, so we're going to peddle you out of here. The Toronto Maple Leafs did that years ago to Mason Marchment. Now, to Toronto's defense, Mason Marchment at the time looked like a middling prospect. He did. He was, nothing more than so-so in the American Hockey League with the Marlies. When he got his opportunities with the Leafs, he wasn't really producing much offensively. He looked like a run-of-the-mill prospect. And at the time, it's like, well, you trade Mason Marchment, big deal. But Toronto did trade Mason Marchment to Florida. And the rest is history. That's where he developed his game. He got more opportunity. He started to get the offense going. That side of his game, the production went up along with the minutes. He got confidence. And that's where we started to see Mason Marchment's career trajectory improve for the better in Florida after being traded by Toronto to Florida. And now here he is in Dallas, and he's been even better. So, it's a long time ago. He's come a long way as a pro. He's matured a lot, obviously, since then. But it's still a team that kind of said, hey, see you later. We're kind of giving up on you. Wouldn't you love to score against them? I would think so. So yeah, Mason Marchment goal prop for Dallas, I think worth a look as well. And with that in mind, I turn it to Mr. Dallas Stars himself, Matt Robinson. What do you think here, Leaf Stars?
Yeah, definitely a tough spot sides wise. I won't be on Dallas. Not going to take the Leafs. Neither of the sides really are appealing to me. There's a couple factors. I know you mentioned. So the Dallas Stars did have a Make-A-Wish player out, an eighth grader that is unfortunately has cancer currently, and he will be at the game tonight. They built a locker for him, things like that. I know every team does these, throughout the season, but I do think those tend to give teams a little bit of a boost. Um, it's worth, keeping in mind. With that being said, there's also a negative going on with Dallas, as Pete DeBoer said. Um, there could be a lot of lineup changes last minute tonight due to the flu bug that's going around the team. So while there's a positive on that, on the front of having a Make-A-Wish kid in the locker room tonight with the boys, there's also the factor of the flu bug going
They're
around and
already
guys
without
potentially
Dumba,
not
and
playing.
Harley missed the last game, and he may miss again. So there's something to that flu bug, and
Well,
it's hurting the defense especially.
yeah, Niels Lundqvist, he actually left the game in the second period and didn't return on Monday night. So, because of illness. So, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, fortunately for Dallas, they do have Bichel playing in form of an NHL defenseman, so they've got a little bit more cushion back there. But it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned props. I love a Nick Robertson prop tonight. Typically, when these two teams get together and they're both playing, I take a shot with Nick Robertson, Jason Robertson. But the two props that I like the most, you mentioned one of them, Matt Duchene. Um, historically, when a player's, interview is released on Spit and Chicklets, they get, what's called a little bit of a Chicklets bump. Duchene was on this week on the episode that released yesterday. It was kind of a emotional episode. He talked about the buyout situation in Nashville. Some of the struggles that
I
he was
haven't
going
seen it yet. I heard it
through
was a
that
really good
process.
interview, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, heartfelt, opening up kind of an interview. He didn't hide or um, keep anything out of the loop. So, very interesting interview. But, again, when something like that's released, sometimes guys get a little bumped. So I do like Duchene props. He's leading the team in scoring, so it's not like it's a big stretch to want to take him. But any props on Duchene, I think, are a good look. And then Jamie Benn, and I know Terry reached out to me on Twitter this morning. I think he's 7 of his last 8 games. He's got a point. 6 of his last 7 games, he's got a point. And you can find his anytime point prop at like plus 105, plus 102, something like that. I think that's worth a look. He's obviously picking up some slack. I think, with Sagan out, the Duchene Marchman line has, slowed down a little bit, but it's kind of been a good time for the other first and third line to kind of pick things up. So I know Rupe Hintz is starting to heat up a little bit. I saw in the chat he has 0 points in his career against Toronto, so maybe he wants to change that tonight. Get the monkey
I
off
wonder
his
if
back,
someone
so
would
to
tell him
speak.
about that, or if he knows about that. That's the interesting
Yeah,
part.
yeah. Maybe I'll tweet it out to him and see if he sees it. I don't think he's got a big following on social media. He's a pretty quiet guy. So, but yeah, things like that. Robertson spent some time living in Toronto. Obviously, his brother's on the other side. I'm sure his family will be in attendance. These are games that are easy for him to get up to, so I could definitely make a case there as
Maybe
well.
Jason will score
Um,
too. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think really my two plays are Duchene and Ben point props in this one, and then I love the over at 5.5. I think given the flu situation in Dallas, I think both teams have high end talent on the offensive side of the puck. Dallas does have a good statistical defense. But I think if they take a couple penalties in this one, it's very likely Toronto can pot a couple. So, regardless of who ends up winning this game, I think getting to 6 goals, is not that crazy. So I like the over here. I like a couple props on both ends. But yeah, that no sides for me in this one. You know, I think it could go either way. I think it's two good teams. Um, and I don't know enough about maybe Toronto's dealing with a flu bug as well throughout their team. I know a lot of teams currently are dealing with that, have guys kind of last minute out of the lineup. So not sure how the health is in there, but I think this will be a good game to watch.
I was just looking at Toronto on the road this year, because we think of them as trying to really play good defense, and they obviously have gotten really good goaltending from Wool at times, and especially Stolars. But I went back and looked, because this total is 5.5. But I was interested just as you were talking, and that's why I was just there was a momentary silence there because I was looking it up. Toronto's played 13 road games this year. 13. We think of them as this great defensive team, but do you know that in 10 of the 13 Toronto road games this year, there have been at least 6 goals in the game? There you go. So you would be 10-3. You would be 10-3 to the over with a total of 5.5 in those 13 Toronto road games this year. I think I'm sold on the over now at this price, and the fact that the blue line's taken the flu bug has literally taken a bite out of the Dallas blue line a little bit going into this game tonight. So
the other thing I didn't mention that I heard on the Dallas sports radio broadcast this morning is Toronto has struggled a bit on the road. You know, they're the number 1 team in the Atlantic. They're great on home ice, but they have struggled a bit on the road. So again, it's not enough for me to lay -135 on Dallas, not on the puck line or anything like that. But I'm just saying they've, definitely struggled on the road, and Dallas has been hot at home. So maybe Dallas can, break the seal on this, tough stretch of the last 6-7 years against Toronto.
Now, look, there's been a lot of out of those 10 out of the 13 Toronto road games have had at least 6 goals. I would say 4 or 5 of the 10 have landed right on 6. Only like 5 of them have gone, over 6 goals on the road for Toronto. But all you need is 6. That's my point. With this total being 5.5, all you need is 6. So I do think over 5.5. I will take that. I think I've talked myself into that. Leaf Stars over 5.5. But definitely prefer that than betting either side here in this one. A lot of props, though. I hope you wrote all those down, anyone listening, because there's a lot of props I like in this game. Just situationals and guys playing their former team and brothers playing for opposing teams here in this. It's just there's so many good prop opportunities in this game, in my opinion. All right, Florida and Minnesota. Next up, we've got Florida -150, road favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this game between these two teams. This number's climbed. They're betting Florida because it went from -130 to -150. I think part of that is Marc-Andre Fleury confirmed in net, but they're betting Florida like Fleury's this big fade, this guy that stinks right now. That couldn't be further from the truth. I like what I'm seeing from the old guy. And I say that with great respect and admiration, obviously, Marc-Andre Fleury. He's played really well lately, and I know he's in net. Bobrovsky will play for the Panthers, but Panthers won't have Sam Bennett tonight. Alexander Barkov, who has now missed 2 games in a row, he's no sure thing to return from injury tonight, from illness tonight for the Florida Panthers. So they might be without their captain for a 3rd straight game. And obviously, you've got a couple injuries still for the Minnesota Wild. Jakob Lauko, Jacob Middleton, Joel Eriksson Ek, but they did get Jonas Brodin back on the blue line in their last game against the Philadelphia Flyers. Definitely makes a world of difference. To me, there's value on the Wild. You can get +130, +135. They've owned Florida, believe it or not. They've beaten the Panthers 3 straight times, including earlier this year. They went down to Florida. They won 5-1. Now you could say, well, Florida's going to remember that and want to pay back, but payback and a -150, 55 price on the road kind of don't jive. And I watched every second of that Florida-Edmonton game the other night. It was a phenomenal hockey game. Let's not forget that Florida, that was an intense game. It was a game filled with just roller coaster ride of emotions, momentum swings left and right. I think it took a lot out of people physically and emotionally a little bit. That was a lot of physical and emotional investment, really on both sides in that game, in that Panthers-Oilers. That was not your average mundane 1 of 82, regular season game for Florida and Edmonton the other night. And to me, that's kind of what makes maybe Edmonton a little bit vulnerable as well in their next game, which is tomorrow night against Boston. Put it this way. When that game ended, you know what one of the first thoughts that came to my mind was? Because I'm always thinking about how I'm going to go or how I'm going to deal with both of the teams off a game like that. It's the first thing that came out to my mind after watching that just exhilarating game with the Panthers Oilers on Monday night was, I don't think I want to bet on either of these teams in their next game. I think I kind of want to bet against both of these teams in their next game coming off a game like that. And that goes for Edmonton tomorrow night. And to me, that goes for Florida here tonight in this game against Minnesota. So I'm going to take a small shot here with the Wild, plus 130, plus 135. Probably sprinkle it with the team total. Split it, I should say, with the team total, which is 2.5 minus 115. It's usually what I like to do when it's taking an underdog, is not put it all on the money line, split it between team total and money line. And that's probably what I'm going to do here with the Minnesota Wild. Matt, what do you think here in this one? Florida, Minnesota. Do you agree with that sentiment that maybe a tough spot here after the Edmonton game for Florida?
I do, but I also, there's really just one play. I love the over 5.5 here. Fleury has been in solid form, but if you look at his game log, I mean, he played Philly, he played the Kings early in the season, he's played Chicago a couple times, and really in his last 3 games, he gave up 5 to Winnipeg the last game he played. They somehow got the win. He gave up 4 to Seattle, and then in between those 2 games, sorry, I'm going in reverse order.
He did only give up 2 to Tampa. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but so if I'm looking at it, it looks like he's given up 3 or more to any teams that outside of Tampa that are, quality teams. So I don't hate Minnesota here, especially at plus 130, but I think this game's going to go over. I think, Florida's going to score a few goals, and I think Minnesota is definitely capable of doing the same. I could see this being like a 4-3 or a 4-2 with a 5-2 empty net goal, something of that sorts. So Fleury in his last 2 seasons, for me, he's been an over guy for me. And it's not that he's always playing terrible or anything like that. He's 6-1-1. His record speaks for itself. But he's just not what he used to be. And especially at a 5.5 price, Fleury confirmed in net. I love the over. Now he'll probably get a shutout. It'll be a 1-0 game or something like that. But if trends continue from last season and this season as well, when he plays, I do like the over. So especially at a 5.5, give me the over. I might dabble a little bit on the first period over, see if both teams kind of get going early. But the bigger play here for me is going to be the over.
All right, first period over. Jonathan says 12-4 on the road for Florida this year. So strong numbers for the first period over with the Panthers on the road. Good stat there. But yeah, it's certainly at 5.5. I'm definitely not betting under 5.5 with these 2 teams in this spot. The only concern with the over, and I'll probably sprinkle on the over by Fecta here, because knowing now what Florida's done on the road as far as first period overs, my only concern is after getting away with one in it turned into a track meet the other night against Edmonton, that crazy ass 6-5 game. Florida really tries to dumb it down tonight and tighten it up. That would be the only concern I would have with the overs here in this game. But like I said, you can't argue with it. And certainly we've seen series history where we've seen higher scoring games as well, head to head with the Panthers and the Wild. So, and by the way, Barkov being out hurts them more defensively, even more defensively than offensively. So if I see Barkov out, I'll like these overs even more. First period full game in this one. All right, next up, we've got Vancouver and Utah. Vancouver Canucks, Utah Hockey Club, Utah minus 120, home favorites. The total 5.5 in this game. Well, it's those Road Warrior Canucks. So you know what I like here in this game. I'm going to split with Vancouver plus 100, Vancouver team total over 2.5, minus 135, minus 140. They've just been terrific away from home this year. And we've continued to see it throughout the course of the season. It looks like tonight for this game, it wouldn't shock me if they go with the Road Warrior Kevin Lankinen, but it may not be him because he's been kind of out of commission the last several days. He was not with the team. He's been ill, and it looks like the illness still will keep him out, at least for tonight. So it will be Thatcher Demko again for the Vancouver Canucks. Karel Vejmelka will be in net here for Utah in this game. You look at Utah, offensively, they're heating up. They have scored 4 goals or more in 5 straight games, 4-1 in their last 5 games. But all their victories have been on the road. Both of these teams have kind of been road warriors and they've sucked at home. it's pretty crazy to see the trajectory and the pattern of both of these teams. Canucks bet them on the road, fade them at home. It's kind of been that way for the Utah Hockey Club lately as well. They've lost 3 in a row at home to Edmonton, to Dallas, to Minnesota, and going back even further, they haven't been great at home. 4-8, the home record this year for the Utah Hockey Club, but they're 6-2 on the road. And then, of course, as I mentioned, pretty much all season with Vancouver, 6-11 at home, but an awesome 10-2-1 for the Vancouver Canucks on the road. So I'm going to go with Vancouver split with team total, money line and team total here with the Canucks. Full game, this is another one at 5.5. I'm kind of interested in the over 5.5 here because you look at Utah, especially of late, we've seen their games kind of trend over the total. Like they're getting to 4 themselves, 5 straight games. I don't think Vancouver's going to shut out Utah in this game. I think they'll get on the board. But I definitely think we could see Vancouver obviously do some damage here. And the thing about Vejmelka is he's a very streaky goalie. He will get the start tonight for the Utah Hockey Club. Had that terrific run, I would say, a couple of weeks ago, coming back down to earth now all of a sudden the last few starts, which have not gone nearly as well for Karel Vejmelka here of late. 3 goals allowed against San Jose, 4 goals allowed against Minnesota. Streaky goaltender he is. And like I said, probably going to get tested here by a Vancouver team that's just been absolutely phenomenal all season away from home. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Vancouver, Utah.
Yeah, this is one that it was almost going to be a pass for me, but I do like that over at 5.5. I think both of these teams kind of, play that running gun style, especially Utah. Not always being responsible defensively. And I think Demko, being confirmed is also a factor in that. Obviously, he's an elite goaltender when he's, in his best form, but I don't think he's in his best form right now. It's tough to take that much time off and then, jump into the NHL midseason. So for that reason, I like the over, which I feel like I'm being repetitive. I think I like the over in every game so far. The first one being a live over, but the rest of them I do like the over at
Philly
5.5.
Detroit game is the one I don't love the over in. I don't that game. Everything else I kind of lean that way.
Yeah. And again, I think it's one of those games. You've got 2 kind of middle pack teams in their divisions, 2 Western Conference teams. Teams that need points if they want to kind of stay in the mix. So I don't know. I think this could be. It may even be an okay play for a draw here, but I don't love the draw. I think one team will kind of take over, but I could see it being like a 4-3, 4-2 game even, 3-2 with an empty net late. So at 5.5, if this was a 6.5 over, this would be a pass game for me, but at 5.5, I like that too much to not take it.
And by the way, I'm only on the full game over. Utah lately has been, if you actually look at Utah, there's been a lot of 1-0 games after the first period, and then the floodgates open for goals in the second and in the third period. So I'm off the first period over here. I'm only on the full game over because that's been the pattern with some of these Utah games, including at home. Like look at the Minnesota game. That was 1-0 after the first period, but it ended 5-4. So the scoring's been kind of slow for Utah at times in the first period, but then it kicks into high gear in the latter 40 minutes. So that's why with this total, I'm only on the full game over 5.5 here at minus 120. And you know why Utah is scoring more goals lately? And I kind of hinted that they would be a team that was still, questions on D and questions with their goaltending, that they would be a decent over team because they could score goals. Well, it didn't look that way a couple of weeks ago, but why are they better now? Because Cooley and Gunther are both, heating up at the same time. Makes all the difference in the world. When they got those 2 guys contributing and chipping in like they are right now, then Keller as well has been good lately. Those are the 3 guys you rely on more than anybody offensively for Utah. And when they're clicking, you get a chance to see more goals, and that's what we're seeing right now from them. All right, the final game of this Wednesday slate, Winnipeg Jets, Anaheim Ducks. We've got Winnipeg minus 160, road favorites, the total 6 here in this game. Obviously, this is the back end of a back-to-back on the road for the Winnipeg Jets. They were in San Jose last night. They get a 4-3 win. Now they're in Anaheim tonight. The mom's trip continues, by the way. It's worth pointing that out. It was a mom's trip game last night, and the Moms will travel with the team here to Winnipeg here tonight for this game as well. So I don't like the idea of fading teams when they got the Mums in attendance with them. Not to mention Winnipeg is flat out better than Anaheim. We all know that. And Anaheim's not in the greatest spot. They're coming off a 4-game road trip. They did end that tough trip, where they lost to Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto. They did end it on a winning note, coming back to beat Columbus 4-3 in overtime on, I believe it was Saturday. And now back home for this first game back off that road trip. We'll see how they fare. Winnipeg, by the way, 8 straight victories head-to-head over the Anaheim Ducks. And they've also won 4 straight here in Anaheim at the Honda Center over the Anaheim Ducks. So clearly it's been lopsided series history. That being said, you're going to see for Winnipeg, with this being a back-to-back, Eric Comrie get the start in net. Lukáš Dostal will get the nod here for the Anaheim Ducks in this game. And certainly, believe it or not, the one area that Anaheim's probably got an advantage is in net when you compare, obviously, Eric Comrie to Dostal. And Dostal, for much of the season, was able to keep Anaheim in games. This is an Anaheim team that's just game in and game out, just giving up 30 shots, 40 shots, just way too much rubber. And yet Dostal finds a way to keep his team in a lot of these games for the most part. And he's done a nice job in that regard. Eric Comrie, meanwhile, for the Winnipeg Jets, 3-4, 3.05 goals against, 901 save percentage. He has obviously not quite been, Connor Hellebuck, and that's to say the least. He's given up at least 3 goals in each of his last 4 starts. That is worth pointing out. He gave up 4 to Columbus the last time he started, back on December 8th. He gave up 4 goals to Vegas, 3 goals to Nashville, 3 goals to Tampa Bay, plus, of course, there was an empty netter. Then there was the one game at Columbus, November 1st, where he gave up just 2. And then before that, in October, when he started, he gave up 3 to Calgary, 3 to Pittsburgh. So the point I'm trying to get at is, in pretty much all but 2 starts, no, all but 1 start this year, in his 7 starts, he's given up at least 3 goals. So, I could see the Anaheim team total being an interesting look here, 2.5 minus 115. I think that's safer rather than taking Anaheim if you like that side. So I'm going to dabble in that. I like the over by Fecta here too. Anaheim coming off the road trip, over 1.5, over 6 split for me in this game as well, with a little bit on the Anaheim team total, over 2.5 here, which is a nice number and nice price. Minus 115 for that Ducks team total over, considering that, again, Eric Comrie has given up at least 3 goals in all but 1 start that he has made this year in net for the Winnipeg Jets. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Final game, Jets-Ducks.
Yeah, so I actually didn't know it was Mom's trip, so that definitely sways my thoughts here. Don't love the over as much in this one as some of the other games. I could see, Winnipeg being on a back-to-back. The Ducks just getting back from a road trip. I could see it being kind of a slow start, kind of feeling each other out for a while. With that being said, I'm not laying minus 160, but you can get Winnipeg 3-way money line, so to win in regulation for right around even money. I think that's going to be my play. Don't bet against the Moms. It's one thing I've always learned. Don't bet against the Moms. Dad's weekend, even less.
4-3 Winnipeg, just like last night, and we're all happy.
Yeah. I mean, Dad's weekend, the dads are just there. They want to drink beers with the guys and hang out. The Mom's weekend, you never want to fuck up when your mom's in that game. So give me Winnipeg 3-way regulation money line. That'll be my only play on this one.
All right, Winnipeg in regulation here for Matt. You can get that obviously at a decent price. And look at the effort they made to come back and beat San Jose last night, because they were down. It wasn't looking good early in the third, and then all of a sudden, here comes Winnipeg answering back. And by the way, regulation, you can get plus 104, as good as plus 104 with Winnipeg here in regulation tonight in this game. Yeah, Kyle Connor's on an absolute roll right now. There's no denying that whatsoever. For the Jets, he's been absolutely phenomenal. I'm still going to look towards Shibrikov again. Finally didn't score last night, but still getting that opportunity playing on the second line. Someone mentioned someone for Anaheim, and this is important because of Cam Fowler getting traded from Anaheim to St. Louis. Someone's got to get more minutes, and the guy that's really benefited from more minutes is Jackson Lacombe on that blue line. He scored in back-to-back games for the Anaheim Ducks from the blue line. So he's on the top pair. He's getting more minutes, shooting the puck more, really ever since the Cam Fowler trade to St. Louis. And as a result, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's going for his third straight game with a goal. You're going to get one hell of a price on him once again at plus 950 at FanDuel. So why not? Jackson Lacombe. Kooky, lend me your Lacombe. There we go. That's a really old song. I'm really showing my age bringing that one up. But Jackson Lacombe, look it up. YouTube for all you young ones out there. Kooky, lend me your comb. There we go. It's an old 50s song. It's kind of a weird song, but I'm a weird guy. All right, it's time to move on. We're getting silly here. Good stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And looking forward to a nice Wednesday night here in the NHL. Nice card to sink our teeth into, even though it's only 5 games. A lot of interesting matchups here tonight. And a reminder, make sure you sign up, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And again, you'll get our goalie charts, totals charts, all our bonus content, exclusive live betcasts, of course. Coming up next month in January and beyond, we'll start rolling out the Patreon exclusive live betcasts, which will only be invites and accessible to Patreon members. So we're looking forward to that. And of course, our daily betting card posted on the page each and every day. Sides, totals, player props. Again, $10 per month. Your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And make sure you check out the Ice Guys store as well. Get your gear and your merch at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, we got bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment. A 2-0 sweep from Maddie and I last night with the bargain bin. We'll see if we can provide an encore for all of you here tonight in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Manscaped, Power Play Sportsbook, Raise Your Game, Tailgaters Social. And a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
All right, shout out to all our great sponsors, including, of course, Boston Hemp Inc. Check them out, 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, yeah, I mean, that must have been rock bottom for the Buffalo Sabres last night because Real Deal Prime was almost always in the chat every single day. I don't see him today. That loss just must have sent him right off, into the sunset for now. Just can't deal with it. Poor guy. I feel bad for all Buffalo fans. I feel bad for that whole area. That whole area is such a good hockey market. It is, especially when the team's playing well, Western New York, and they just have nothing to be excited or happy about right now. It's unfortunate. We go to moving on to happier things. 2-0 sweep for Matt and I with the bargain bin special of the night last night, and we'll see if we can duplicate that here for this Wednesday. Matt, what do you like for your bargain bin special?
So for my bargain bin, I'm going to a guy that hasn't scored in four games. Not a big deal. He is from Uxbridge, Ontario, just an hour north of Toronto. Give me Mason Marchment anytime goal tonight. He's been hot this year. He's 1 goal back from leading the Stars in goals. I think Rupe and Duchesne are at 13. He's got 12. 4-game drought, no big deal. he's due. He's had his chances, and he wants to play well in Toronto. In front of a lot of friends and family, I'm sure. So, give me Mason Marchment anytime goal tonight. That'll be my bargain bin.
Well, for the first time in history, Matt and I are. I'm on two. I'm two bargain bins from the same game tonight. Leafs and Stars. That is one of them. Mason Marchment. So we are going to have both of us will have the same bargain bin, but I'm going with two tonight for this one. But I fully agree. One of my two is also Mason Marchment, plus 310 for the Dallas Stars. And I like the angle of the Leafs tossing him aside to Florida years ago. And obviously he's flourished here in Dallas, gets to play one of his former teams, former organizations. So I like that angle, like obviously the way he's producing. So Mason Marchment plus 310 as well, along with Matt for one of my bargain bin specials. But I'm going to give you a second one tonight because I couldn't decide between the two. And I'm going to go to the other side of this matchup. Toronto, Nick Robertson plus 660 at Betano is the best price out there. There's plus 500 at Bet365, plus 600 at BetMGM, plus 550 at DraftKings. But you can get 500 or better, but 660 is out there at Betano. Nick Robertson for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Finally got some offensive confidence back with the goal and an assist against Buffalo. He's going to Dallas, looking to, make an impact with Big Brother on the other side. Great bet, in my opinion, at a great price. Nick Robertson for Toronto, plus 660 for my second bargain bin. So Mason Marchment and Nick Robertson for me tonight. Two bargain bin specials on this Wednesday. All right, best bet for this Wednesday. Matt, what do you like?
Yeah, for my best bet, we are going to head to, let's see who's at home. We are going to head to Alex's current hometown, not where he's currently at, but where he currently lives, Minneapolis, Minnesota. We are going to take the Florida Wild full game over 5.5. As I mentioned, Marc-Andre Fleury, he's 6-1-1. He gives them a chance to win, but he's not what he used to be. That's for sure. And I think both these teams, I could see this being a sort of a track meet and a high scoring game. So give me the full game over 5.5 there in Florida and Minnesota. That's my best bet of the night.
Florida, Minnesota over. That's full game, right?
It's the full game over at 5.5, correct?
There you go. Florida, Minnesota over 5.5 minus 105. There you go for Matt Robinson with his best bet. All right, my best bet here for this card. I'm going back and forth between a couple here for this one. And I think I'm going to end up landing on Vancouver, Utah over 5.5 minus 125. That's what we'll roll with. Vancouver, Utah. No. Yeah, we'll stick with that. I'm indecisive because I've got to. You can tell I'm indecisive because I'm trying to snap this little skid with the best bet. But yeah, we've committed to it. Let's stick. I like it. Vancouver, Utah over 5.5 minus 125. I think we got a chance to see this game get up and over that number again with Utah. They've scored 4 goals or more in 5 straight games. Vancouver on the road, they've actually had a little more offensive production as well. Let's go with that. Vancouver, Utah, over 5.5. Best bet for me with this Wednesday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way out. Good stuff indeed. By the way, we didn't mention with the Leaf Stars game. Doesn't mean Dallas is going to win. It doesn't mean he's going to have a shutout in the game tonight, but it is Jake Ottinger's birthday today for them. So not that that's going to mean. I know in the NBA, it seems like the players on their birthday play well, and I'm sure he will, but it is his birthday tonight. We'll see how that plays out. But shout out to everyone in the chat. Yeah, that Morgan Wallen, what's that song that it was always on the radio like years ago? We let the liquor talk. Da-na-na-na-na, we said
I hate that shit.
Not a fan.
That's like my least favorite type of music on earth. So
yeah,
it was funny that someone put that.
I don't like country music, period, quite honestly. So anything like that, unless it's Shania Twain back. I got into Shania Twain a little bit, 30 years ago.
Let's do a little like Willie Nelson type country, but definitely none of the shit that's coming out these days. That's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm a metal guy. So
yeah, when we're critiquing country music, the show's gone too long. So with that in mind, off we go. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Tuesday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow. There he is, Real Deal Prime. Good to see. He's always going to be in good spirits. Nothing the Sabres can do will bring him down or will bring him away from tuning into this show and being in the chat. That's the spirit, Real Deal Prime. Hang in there, Real Deal Prime. Hang in there, my friend. Hopefully better days are on the way for your team, the Sabres. God knows you deserve it. God knows everyone in that area does. All right, with that in mind, that's a wrap. Enjoy the games and good luck tonight on this Wednesday, and we'll be back with you tomorrow on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.